current progress. I've managed to quilt the entire thing with a quite dense free motion stippling design. Here you can see it up close. Now this isn't perfect by any stretch. I have quite a lot of puckering in this quilt in some areas, as you can see here. And that is entirely my own fault, because in order to do the free motion quilting, I have to use an embroidery hoop, because I feel like that gives me some sort of control and I can guide the quilt through the machine quite easily that way. But I thought, because I'm using the hoop, I won't need to baste, because the hoop will hold the 3 layers together. Well, that turned out to be a disaster, and the puckering is the result of that. So I went back and basted the rest of the quilt and got a much better result once I'd done that. So this isn't too much of a problem, because this quilt's for me and nobody else. And if I want to cover this up, I can just get an applique patch, or even just leave it as is, because it shows the story of this quilt and the lesson that I've learned to always baste. So I'm not too worried about it. Now my stitches did get better the further along I went around the quilt. So as we get here, my stitches are quite consistent. But you can see that even in some of the stippling I've crossed over. But I don't think anybody is going to scrutinise it too closely, apart from me. So once I'd got more confident with the free motion quilting, I thought I'd be brave enough to do some outline sewing on this particular section. So what I have done is I've traced around the petals, the flowers and the leaves to give it that 3D effect. And I did an okay job with this. I'm quite pleased with it. I'm undecided as to whether to go back and do any more dense quilting around in the blank spaces, but I'm going to think on that before I do anything and take the risk. So for the backing of this quilt, I've used an old duvet cover cut in half, and I've chosen this busy repeating print so that if any of my quilting wasn't up to par, it really wouldn't show too badly. The wadding that I've used on this quilt is extremely budget friendly. I'll show you a piece here. I've used this polar fleece, which I bought from the range, and it cost £1.99. So it's perfect for beginners, because if you make any mistakes, then you've not wasted a huge amount of money. And this measures 130 by 160, so it's great for a lap size quilt. It's really, really thin and lightweight, so it goes through the machine really nicely. And it still gives that textured effect. So now that we've seen the progress on this quilt, I'm going to show you what I've been doing with some of my other scrap fabrics. English paper piecing is my new obsession. I've got some ready-made hexy flowers here, and this is my little project bag. So I'll show you everything that I have in here. So I bought some hexagon papers off Amazon because I didn't have anything to accurately cut the papers. So I just thought this would be slightly easier, and they're not too expensive. I've got my needle and thread, reading glasses, which really help in the evenings when the light's quite dim. I have some clips because I like to use these to hold the fabric in place. It just stops me from having to grip it so much. My little embroidery scissors and my hexagon flowers, which I'll show you now. Amongst some of these fabrics are some that are really special to me. This one is from one of my grandma's old pillowcases. And this one here was from one of my nana's old bed sheets. And then this one has come from a lady that I work for. And I've also requested some from my mum, so she's going to give me some nice fabric to include in this quilt. I'm going to try and make this into a lap size quilt at least. So this is going to be a really long-term project for me, and I think I'm going to join the flowers together by half hexies, sort of like that if I can, in a pretty fabric that ties it all together. I think that using old fabrics that have had a previous life and previous owners that means something to me is going to help build up a story behind this quilt. And because they've been used and loved and washed, they've got a really beautiful texture and they're really easy to quilt and sew through. I'm going to make up my next flower from this pillowcase because it's got a nice small print and it's a pretty colour, and it also has some extra detail on it, so I figure I can fussy cut one of these flowers and it coordinates quite nicely then. It's probably going to be that one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you can join me next time when I'll be binding the quilt and doing some other stitching too. Bye.